Utah football coach Kyle Whittingham with us on 365 Sports. I recorded an interview with you last year before you played Baylor, and I'm the one that had somebody tell me that they thought the way you played the game was like an angry ball of razor blades. and it's, wouldn't you agree with that?
I think there's a lot of merit to that statement. We try to play with a lot of physicality, and that's our calling card, and that's been in place for a lot of years, and hopefully this year is no different.
You return a team this year. You get your quarterback back, which I can't wait for the world to see Cam Rising after. He fought through a lot last year, clearly. But when you have this whole thing of stepping in a new league, there's unfamiliarity there. But to have the veterans that you have, does that make it at least easier going in on the surface?
I think without a doubt, and we have a lot of guys returning that have played a lot of good football for us, and so that should make this transition smoother. A lot of good teams in the Big 12. There's 8 or 10 teams that really have a legitimate chance of winning this thing, and so we'll see how things play out. But feel very good about our squad, where we are right now, and having Cam back, as we've talked about, is huge.
You never know what's going to happen in the future with college football because it's an everyday thing, but is it nice to at least enter a fall with no drama?
For sure, yeah, especially at the quarterback position. That's the most important position on the field, and to be able to have that position completely solidified. As far as the starter, we still have some work to do to determine the 2, 3, and 4 guy, but to have no drama, at least in the starting spot at quarterback, is a big positive.
You, fought through it last year, and you built a team. And you've always built teams around defense. You talked about the razor blades and all of that. But how much does that help a team know that, no matter what happens, that you're going to be in a game,
right,
because you have that style of play?
Yeah, well, it's worked for us for several years. Obviously, we want to be really good on offense too, and during Cam's years that he's been healthy here, we have been. We've been very, very prolific offensively, but the defense is something we can always rely on, and like you said, it'll keep you in every football game, and that's something that has been a big reason for our success through the years.
How much of the teams that are now part of the Big 12, and obviously the 4 came in with you, Colorado and the Arizona schools. BYU very well. Right. Baylor, you played them last year. How many of those other schools have you kind of had an idea of or played recently?
Well, I haven't played many of them at all, but been watching them. Okie State obviously has done a great job through the years. Coach Gameday, terrific football coach, and very, very consistent, very stable program. You mentioned the teams that we're going in with. We're very familiar with those teams, and so that is going to be nothing new. We played Baylor, but then the other teams, Cincinnati, West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, they're very, very little familiarity with those places and those programs, and so but I promise you this, when that game week rolls around, we will be ready. Yeah.
And that means they haven't seen much of you either.
True. It works both ways. Yeah. And so I don't see that as advantage or disadvantage. It's just the circumstances.
The Holy War is a conference game now.
It is.
And that's great for college football, just in general, to have a great rivalry like that maybe people don't know as much about. But especially since you guys have joined the conference, we've kind of found out from our viewers that this is one that matters a lot. So leaving a conference is tough, but to be able to kind of create this, now conference game where there's higher stakes on a rivalry that already had pretty high stakes, what is that like for a program?
Yeah, well, it's back to the old days when we were in the Mountain West and the WAC prior to that, when that was a yearly event. Last several years it's been spotty. We've played a few times and missed a few years here and there. But now that we're back in the same league again, it's going to be an every year deal. But we really don't approach it any differently. It's we use our same preparation process and the same get ready the same way as we would for any other week. But it is, I would say, without a doubt, the single biggest sporting event in the state of Utah, when that game is played during those years, that everybody gets excited about it.
Do you coach the way you played?
I like to think so. Yeah, I was an angry linebacker. I think that, by nature, it's who I am, and I think that does manifest in my coaching style.
How does that then balance itself when you have to be, because you are fiery, and there's no question you see that look in your face, but also not get so overmodulated, you forget about the moment.
Exactly. You got to maintain balance. You've got to the high. You don't want to be too high. You don't want to be too low. And the guy I played for, Lavelle Edwards, was the epitome of that. He was a guy that was so even keeled and really didn't let adversity or anything rattle him. And that's what we communicate to our team, and I think our guys do a great job of handling that as well.
I've got to ask you about Caleb Lohner. We know him because he was in Waco, and hell of a basketball player. We know that. But how good of a football player is this kid?
I'll tell you what, the ceiling is very high for Caleb. He's looked terrific in the little bit of hands-on opportunity that we've had so far. But you're 6'7", 245 pounds, runs like a deer, and can jump out of the gym. I mean, the guy's got a skill set that's incredible. We're just trying to groom that into the football aspect. Like you mentioned, he's a terrific basketball player, but we think that he's got a chance to be really, really good. But we'll see how things progress.
You have to tell him things like dribbling is bad. You can't dribble.
Yeah, he actually has very, very good instinct so far, and really has taken to it. So, he did play some football growing up. I think maybe 9th grade was the last time he played, so it was not completely foreign to him. But he shows a lot of natural affinity towards the game.
How would you describe Cam Rising's perseverance, resiliency, and patience?
Incredible. He's had so many obstacles, I guess you could say, or things that he's had to overcome while he's been at Utah, and each and every time he's bounced back and become really a better player than he was in the past. And so he's a guy that means so much to us with his play and with his leadership. And having him back is just a terrific thing for our team.
How much of the grit that you had as a player do you see? And I mean, you're a linebacker, he's a quarterback. It's a totally different thing. But he's always struck me as a guy who has tremendous grit.
He does. And he can take a hit and pop right back up and come back for more. He's as competitive as a player as we've ever had come through there. And he's got that unique ability to make others around him better. That's what you really look for, and especially in a quarterback. If he can make everyone else around him better, then that's you got a chance to be really good.
If he played defense, would that be where he played? Linebacker, safety?
No doubt about it. He'd be wanting to hit people.
Right in the middle of it?
Absolutely.
Kyle Whittingham, the head coach at Utah, with us on 365 Sports. We're in Las Vegas, Big 12 Media Days.
For Big 12 fans that have never been to Rice-Eccles Stadium, that have never been out and experienced your atmosphere, what would you tell them?
It's a tough place to play. Be ready because it's going to be loud. We've had, I want to say 12 straight years of sellouts, 52,000 plus and standing room only every single week. We've got the mighty Utah student section, the MUS, who's one of the best student sections in the country, and really that is the game day atmosphere starts right there with the MUS, and they're on their feet for all 4 quarters, and they roll about 8,000 strong up there, and it's a great advantage and environment for our football team.
Your fans are passionate.
They are.
We learned that even before it became official Utah was headed to the Big 12 because you've had so much success. I mean, it's not like you guys have done really well. How proud are they? You get that feeling too?
There's a lot of pride in Ute Nation, and our fans are terrific. And like I said, I'm sure there's some teams, but there's not a lot of teams that can say we've been sold out for 12 straight years. And I think that we've done a good job as a program of giving them a product they can be proud of.
I read a story in the New York Times about everybody has a story about Kyle Whittingham, Jim McMahon, Val Sikahema, Robbie Bosco, Greg Peterson, all of them. What kind of personality before you became like a really good player at Utah? Were you shy? Did you have to gain confidence? What was that time like?
I'm not going to say I'm shy. I'm not real outgoing, but I would say that it was just first of all, I've been playing football since 5th, 6th grade, and really took to the sport. My dad played in the National Football League for 9 years, coached in the National Football League for 15 plus years, and so it's always been a part of our lives. And I've been in the locker room with Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly, and he's on the Cowboys, and being Calvin Hill, being able to see all those guys, and it was incredible, and go to practice. So football's always been a big part of my life. I've always enjoyed it. it's just woven into my DNA, I guess.
The Landry Cowboys.
Oh yeah, Tom.
I mean,
Landry, you bet.
was that out in Thousand Oaks when they were at
Yes,
training
it
camp?
was.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You got a good memory.
Yeah, no, I went to a few of those. I'm old
Okay.
enough to be able to do that. Now they're just right up the road in Oxnard.
Right.
But Thousand Oaks, it was at Cal Lutheran, and it was just. I mean, I'm glad I had that experience because it was still kind of the innocence of the NFL back in those days.
It was for sure, and he had a chance to play for 5 different teams, and the Cowboys was certainly one of the stops that I remember most.
What would you change if you could about college football today? Because there's so many, like a spider web of change.
Yeah, there's been so much change already, and there's more on the horizon. I can tell you that. We're not done. I think it's ultimately going to get to 2 super conferences and their own playoff system, and probably break away from the NCAA, have a commissioner and all. An NFL minor league model, I think, is where we're heading in that regard.
Well, Utah's done their part. You guys have been
We hope so,
successful,
yeah.
but there's always the concern about how many is a part of a Super 2. Is that something you think too much about, or is that something you can control other than just do what you do at Utah?
The latter, just continuing to compete on the field and win games and be successful. And I think if we do that, then when the line is drawn in the sand, I think we'll be on the right side of it.
When will that be, you think?
2 years to 5, 2 to 5 years, probably 2 to 4 years.
Wow.
Is that good for college football?
That's a good question. I'm not sure you can answer that right now, and I think there's so many changes. I think private equity is probably going to become. They're already starting to become involved in college football, and it's just where it ends up. Anybody's best guess, but I can tell you this: that it's it's not going away, and it's not gonna go. What we knew and grew up with as college football, that's never gonna.
No,
it's gone. It's done.
Would you say the last 3 to 4 or 5 years, COVID, et cetera, has been a blur?
Absolutely, without a doubt. That's a good description. A blur. Yeah, yeah.
For someone, you're a very clearly regimented person.
Right.
How much did you have to adapt so fast to, be able to fill in? You're not going to be unregimented, but to fill in then and kind of establish who you are.
Well,
to deal with those things.
Yeah, you have to embrace change, because if you fight it, you're going to get left behind. And so, for example, NIL, the portal, all that stuff, like it, love it, hate it, doesn't matter. You got to embrace it, and you got to move forward with it and adapt, because if you don't adapt, you die.
Well, one more thing, if you don't mind. You've had players who have had to move from one position to the next based on depth, injuries, et cetera, or just talent that they kind of blossom. How do you know? How do you know? Do you kind of even know that before that move is made, like maybe the fall before or spring or whatever?
Yeah, you have an inkling of that, even back into when you're recruiting them in high school. You can say, hey, this guy's a really good running back or whatever, but his ceiling is going to be really high at, linebacker, defensive end, whatever. And so I think our staff, I know our staff has done a great job of projecting talent. And then once we get our hands on them and able to coach them firsthand, we can see, where they may have a chance to be extremely successful, and our track record bears that out. And that being the case, when we approach a player and say, hey, you're doing a really good job at this spot, but if you want to make this change, we think you could be special. And so they buy into it because they've seen it happen over and over and over.
Well, now you have Sione Vaki that you just did that with last year.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, we got to have a running back.
Exactly.
The young man, he was at Texas. He moved to Utah.
Jindon
Jackson. And he played running back quite a bit. It was a couple of years ago, and he was good.
Right.
Like, he was a fantastic player at Duncanville, I believe it was.
Correct, yeah, QB.
But at the same time, that's when I kind of realized it's like they find whatever they need at whatever position their need is a need, and that's when I really thought about what your staff has done.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't that way 10 years ago.
Yeah, we look for the raw material, big frame kids, long levers that can run. We know we're going to need to put 30, 40 pounds on them, maybe some cases 60 pounds, but we've got a good idea of what we're looking for in our program and who projects and who doesn't. Now, you're not always right, but if you can be right 2 out of 3 times, you're going to be a pretty good team.
What was it like last year, knowing that things were falling apart or had fallen apart? Was that sad? Was it melancholy, surreal?
It was, I guess, all the above, because I thought we had a chance to be a really good team last year, and we did. But as fate would have it, we battled a lot of adversity. But to come away with 8 wins relative to what we went through, I'm very proud of our guys.
Kyle, thanks for your time.
You
Great
bet.
to have you.
You bet.
Kyle
Thanks for having
Whittingham,
me on.
Utah football coach, with us in Vegas, Big 12 Media Days. Great stuff, man. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you.
Very nice to meet you.